Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is your weekly, it seems like, head coach firing in the SEC. Welcome to Random SEC. Big news in college football today. Auburn has officially parted ways with head coach Hugh Freeze. Today we're breaking down what led to this decision, how the tenure unfolded, and the financial and program implications, and what might be next for the Auburn Tigers. Let's dive in. On Sunday, November 2nd, 2025, Auburn University announced that they have fired head coach Hugh Freeze after less than 3 seasons as head coach. His record at Auburn stood at 15-19 overall, including a 6-16 mark in SEC play. The decision came after a 10-3 home loss to Kentucky, which dropped the Tigers to 1-5 in conference play this season. Reports suggest the buyout for Freeze is roughly $15.4 million. So what triggered this move? Let's go back through the timeline. Freeze was hired by Auburn in late 2022, signing a 6-year contract reportedly worth $39 million. The expectation was that he would restore Auburn's prominence in the SEC, bring in high-end recruits, and build a sustainable contender. He had success earlier in his career, was viewed as someone who could bring an offensive identity, so early on the enthusiasm was high. But as we'll see, the results did not meet expectations. Here's how it played out on the field. In his first full season, results were mixed. By 2025, Auburn started 3-0 in non-conference play and climbed as high as number 22 in the AP poll rankings. But once SEC play began, the Tigers faltered. They failed to score 20 points in each of their first 4 conference games. Their quarterback play was inconsistent, and turnovers and sacks became a recurring issue. The most recent blow? Scoring only 3 points in the loss to Kentucky, and the student section openly chanting, "Fire Hugh," at the end of the game. Overall, a 15-19 record and a 6-16 SEC record were not unacceptable for Auburn standards. Several contributing factors to why the tenure failed to hit the mark. Starting with offensive struggles, despite strong recruiting, Auburn did not consistently execute the offense at a high level. For example, the quarterback tandem of Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels failed to stabilize production. The SEC is extremely tough, and Auburn's performance against ranked teams and in conference matchups was poor. Just 1-13 against ranked opponents under Freeze. They finally beat Arkansas, and it kind of felt like, we're getting somewhere, maybe he could keep his job for another season. We can build off that. Then you lose to Kentucky, and that's kind of the part where it all falls down. You can't lose to Kentucky, especially at home, a winless SEC team, and just ridiculously bad. Losses at home piled up, which is unacceptable at an atmosphere like Jordan-Hare. A program that once prided itself on winning at home found itself vulnerable. Expectations versus reality for Hugh Freeze. The fan base, administration, and boosters expected a bounce back this year. When that didn't materialize and frustration built, the margin of error shrank rapidly. Freeze even admitted they deserve better results than what we've gotten this year. It's sickening and frustrating and heartbreaking. When you combine recruiting success plus promise, plus elevated expectation with the hard realities of game day results, the gap becomes harder to recover from. We've seen very, very few coaches come off the hot seat, and when they do, it's usually not even that good. We've only really seen a couple coaches ever come off this quote-unquote hot seat and be really good, and that would be like Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. I really can't even think of anybody else. But let's talk about what this means financially and for Auburn's program moving forward. The buyout, Auburn will reportedly owe Freeze about $15.4 million. This marks a significant investment, but given the lack of success, the administration evidently decided that continuing would cost more long-term in brand/competitiveness than the short-term payout for the program. This is Auburn's third head coach in roughly 4 years. Brian Harsin was fired in 2022. That kind of turnover can hamper recruiting, player retention, culture building, and stability. Moving into another huge coaching search where the coaching carousel is already wound up and teams are looking for coaches everywhere, Auburn will need to ensure the next hire can stick and deliver. Precedent analysis are already speculating about potential targets and what direction Auburn might go, whether a veteran, a young up-and-comer, a system coach, or even someone that's already on the staff, and DJ Durkin, the defensive coordinator. In short, this decision may be costly now, but Auburn deemed the status quo unsustainably given the trajectory. Now, looking ahead, for Auburn, the full search begins. They'll need to attract a hire who can handle the expectations of Auburn football, compete in the SEC, and rebuild the culture. On the recruiting front, with the coaching chain, Auburn has to maintain momentum in the portal and ensure recruits remain committed despite uncertainty. For Freeze, while this ends his Auburn chapter, he lives with a mixed legacy, strong recruiting, but too many losses. It remains to be seen where he'll land next, if at all. For the broader college football landscape, coaching changes like this reflect the heightened expectations and low tolerance for underperformance among Power 5 programs today. We have seen many coaches fired every week here, and it just goes to show that this year expectations have hired. There's now a little more leeway and a little more room to hire a new coach. So teams are taking advantage, but it's going to be slim pickings with the amount of teams that are looking for a new coach this season. In closing, the firing of Hugh Freeze at Auburn is a reminder of just how unforgiving high-level college football can be. It doesn't matter how big your name is, how strong your recruiting class was, or how promising your offense looks on paper. If results don't follow, the pressure will build quickly. For Auburn fans, this is a moment of frustration and reflection. Hope for better days is still there, but it requires the program to make the right move now. One that is patient yet decisive. If you're an Auburn fan, who do you want to see as the next head coach? What qualities matter most to you? Leave a comment below. If you're just a college football fan, how do you see this move affecting Auburn's future in the SEC? Will they bounce back quickly, or is this a rebuilding phase? It really seems like the SEC has a lot of coaching turnover while still being one of the deepest conferences. And it really seems like teams who don't have the proper administration in the front office, the AD talking heads, really feels like if they aren't there, then you're not going to get the right coaches. You're not going to put the right resources behind them like certain programs have. And we kind of see this at the same boat for Auburn and Arkansas and maybe even LSU. LSU made the decision to go ahead and fire their AD and Scott Woodard. But it's all about who you can hire and the resources you can put behind them. Now let's look at Auburn head coaching candidates. And this is obviously very early, considering they fired their coach today when I made this video. But let's see, who could potentially be candidates for the next Auburn football era. It could be slim pickings for Auburn, depending on how much money they are willing to spend, the way they are willing to spend it, and who they're willing to spend it on. As we've seen this year, there have been a plethora of head coach firings, including 4 in the SEC. Let's look at number 1. And these are obviously early candidates for the head coaching job. More will circulate for my initial head coaching candidates after the firing, like a couple minutes after. So very raw here, but who could we see as the next Auburn head coach? Former Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher. Fisher's tenure at A&M ended in a disastrous fashion after he was paid the biggest buyout in college football history to go away. In his final 2 seasons after signing the number 1 recruiting class in history, Fisher went 11-15, including 6-9 in SEC play. But while his recent work has been underwhelming, Fisher remains one of the most successful coaches of the 21st century. At Florida State, Fisher went 83-23 and won the 2013 national championship. He also led the Aggies to a number 4 finish in Orange Bowl victory in 2020, ranking among their best Aggie seasons of the past 30 years. And his 2013 team is one of the most talented rosters ever. If Fisher went to Auburn, he'd quickly be one of the top recruiters in the SEC again. Coming back to college football wouldn't be about money for Fisher, so you could rule that out of the question. He would be motivated. It would be about reclaiming his name. Auburn could use a coach with a big chip on his shoulder and some guy who kind of fits the culture at Auburn. Now, I know Auburn fans are a little skeptical of this. He obviously had a mixed reaction tenure at Texas A&M, but he could really revitalize the program, and he kind of fits the culture, and, he's not there with that, complacency. He wants to reprove his name, and he wants to do it fast, and he wants to win. It's definitely not the top hire for Auburn, but it's an option, and I just want Auburn fans to keep an open mind about it. Number 2, former Penn State coach James Franklin. When Penn State fired James Franklin, he said his new goal was simply to go win a national championship somewhere else. Auburn is a program with championship upside. They want championships. Although it seems that James Franklin has his mind set on the Virginia Tech job, Auburn is a program that could potentially sway his mind differently. They have the resources, and if they're willing to put the money behind it, James Franklin could definitely be a top candidate for the Auburn Tigers. And he could definitely be a guy who could bring them to that next step. Missouri coach Eli Drinkwitz. Now, Drinkwitz has been circulating among names in the SEC, among coaching searches. Eli Drinkwitz has been one of the most successful coaches in the SEC since arriving at Missouri in 2020. He's a Gus Malzahn disciple, so he kind of gets that Auburn in him, and he even was a assistant on the Auburn 2010 national championship team with Gus Malzahn. The program is also on the edge of college football playoff contention during another hot start to 2025. That is Mizzou. So if you want a guy who can come in there, recruit decently well, and bring you playoff contention, which I think all Auburn fans would be happy with, then come on. Eli Drinkwitz could definitely fit that mold. And now we go to a guy that has been thrown around in about every coaching cycle, Tulane coach John Sumrall. Now, John Sumrall has done a fantastic job at Tulane. He's been linked to the LSU job, the Arkansas job, the Florida job. Just about every job out there right now has been linked to John Sumrall. He is high on the team's early hot board. The Huntsville, Alabama native took over a Troy program coming off 3 straight losing seasons and quickly flipped them into a winner, posting a 23-4 record with 2 Sun Belt titles in 2 seasons. The next year he went to Tulane and led the program to the American title game with an 8-5 record, including 7-1 in America play. The former Kentucky linebacker has deep experience in the SEC, been an assistant for many years under Mark Stoops and at Ole Miss. He would bring that physical nature to Auburn and would probably bring wins too. The guy can win without heavy resources, and right now it seems like Auburn is a little depleted on that front. So a guy like John Sumrall could be the guy to bring Auburn to that gritty style Auburn football that they all want. Kenny Dillingham, head coach at Arizona State, brought his team to the Big 12 championship game and to the CFB college football playoffs last year, and he almost beat Texas. Kenny Dillingham has brought a winning culture to Arizona State, a hard place to do that. This is pretty unlikely considering Kenny Dillingham is at his alma mater, Arizona State. Seems to be pretty happy there, seems to be building something there, but Auburn, with the right amount of cash, can throw it at him, and we could possibly see him come to the Plains and take over as Auburn coach. And let's just go to a guy who is currently at Auburn. He will currently be the interim head coach, and that is DJ Durkin, a guy who has made Auburn's defense one of the best, if not the best, in the SEC. Do you want a guy who has proven himself at your own program, the guy the fans can get behind? But is he too close related to Hugh Freeze? Maybe he would just keep continuing this Hugh Freeze era. But it is definitely an option, and I think it's one of the favorites. DJ Durkin, defensive coordinator currently at Auburn, could be the head coach currently at Auburn. So let's see about that. Georgia Tech coach Brent Key, the Yellow Jacket CFP hopes took a major shot after loss to NC State in Week 10, but Key has still done a sensational job in Atlanta. Georgia Tech reached number 7 in the AP Top 25 poll for the first time since 2009 and have built a physical identity behind the former offensive line coach. Brent Key has done a fantastic job at Georgia Tech, no doubt. But it seems like he has definitely been circling in a lot of coaching hires. It seems like he may have went and interviewed that job for Penn State. So we'll see where that takes him. These are just some early coaching candidates for Auburn. We'll see what really happens. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out breakdowns of coaching changes, major programs, and college football stories. Until next time, it's Random SEC, and I'll see you later.